We will call to order the regular board meeting of the Chicago Board of Election Commissioners. Good morning. My name is Maricel Hernandez. I'm the chair, and with me today is Commissioner June Brown
Present.
and Commissioner William Cressy.
Also present.
Next item on the agenda is a consideration of the agenda. Are there any proposed changes? If not, then we will proceed with the approval of the regular board meeting minutes of October 8th, 2024. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved by Commissioner Brown.
Seconded by Commissioner Cressy.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Motion passes. Next is the Executive Director's Report. Mr. Holliday.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioner Brown and Commissioner Cressy. We're finishing up debriefings with the department. Once we're done, you will have a full report of our findings and our corrective actions that will be taken. Crews plan to finish up phase 1 of work at the Pershing Warehouse through the end of January. The equipment stage on the second floor in 1819 will be moved to 1869 for charging. The move will begin Tuesday, January 14th, and will be completed on January 24th. Once this equipment is charged, it will be moved for the third floor north section in 1819 Pershing. Work begun on the third and fourth floors will be completed on January 31st. The movement of all existing material and equipment is completed, and crews have demolished the existing fire pumps. Okay. The new fire pumps, fire alarms, and emergency management system installation is in process and is set to be completed by January 31st. I have outlines of all the updates and upgrades for the warehouse to give to the three of you.
I'm just, can you go back a second?
Mhm.
Because you're talking about 1819 and 1869, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, and certain floors, right?
Well, yes. Once the work is completed, we right
Wait.
now
Okay, once the work is completed in,
1819.
okay,
Because we have space in both 1819 and 1869.
Uh-huh.
So speaking with our facility coordinator, Dean for tickets, we're setting up a meeting because we're going to have possession of one full building. We're not
Which
going to be
is-
split into two anymore,
which is 1869?
which would be 1819.
1819.
And the contract is going to be drawn up with all the space that we will be occupying.
So when you say, the work that's being done is right now in 1819 to finish it up?
Correct.
Okay. And that's by, do we have a date by which it's be totally done?
The total completion date is scheduled for it's August. It's scheduled for August of this year. Madam Chair.
August?
Yes.
Oh, boy.
You have some written reports for each of us there?
Yes, I do.
Could you distribute those around at this point?
I think that given construction, if it's August, yeah, it's gonna run right into,
Our talks are that they will be completed before we start for our next election.
yeah. And who's doing the construction? Is it someone contracted by
By the city,
the city?
yes.
Is it 2 pages for the warehouse update?
You know, I may have given you 2 pages,
Yeah,
but it
does
should just
everybody
be
have
one.
2 pages
Yeah,
for
well,
phase 1?
I have
I've got,
Yeah, you got this, okay.
yeah, I've got.
It's just two.
Okay.
Just as a point of reference, the candidate filing period for the March 26 primary election begins October 27th. None of those candidates file with us, but that's
Yeah,
what we'll sort of say the beginning of the election cycle.
right, right. And who, stays on top of the, construction, process and,
Our site facilitator, Dean Fatikas, and he sends reports on what's being done and what's completed.
okay. Okay, well, good. Dean is on top of things and, he'll try to push things as much as he can. Like I said, I just don't want it to run up against the beginning of the electoral season. That complicates things. Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Holliday,
Okay, so we're planning to release the RFP on Tuesday, January 21st, to find an auditing team to conduct our full-scale audit of our operations and finance. Right now, we are aiming for a proposed submission deadline for February 13th to make a decision and award the contract by the end of February.
okay. Is legal looking at that RFP?
Yes, they
Okay.
have.
Great.
I'll be meeting with the Office of Budget Management on Friday to discuss our 2025 staffing budget. I'll report back once I have more information. Finally, on last Friday, we convened a meeting with our lobbyists, Derek Blader and Mike Grady, lobbyists for the Association of Election Commissioners, officials of Illinois, to discuss our legislative agenda for this year's session in Springfield. We plan to work together to write letters and support helpful legislation to include this year's election omnibus bill. Our general counsel, Adam Lasker, will present more information during his legislative report. So ends my report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
This time.
No, we'll move on to our Assistant Executive Director, Mrs. Spera.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, Commissioner Brown, Commissioner Cressy. The IT department has received newly purchased equipment and is currently upgrading managers' workstations. IT department.
IT.
They anticipate deploying all new equipment before the next election cycle. The registration department continues to process same-day applications and will complete this project by the end of the month. Staff is currently scanning and proofing early voting and election day applications for ballot. Yesterday, I attended the post-election meeting with the vote-by-mail vendor, along with the executive director and the vote-by-mail management staff at the warehouse. And this is I'm reporting what Derek reports to me. So at the warehouse, starting Monday, January 27th, 2FM will have movers shift items from the second floor to the third floor of 1819 to accommodate the ongoing fire safety work. The warehouse staff is moving items from the second floor from 1819 to 1869 second floor. And the staff continues to conduct inventory of supplies. And that ends my report.
Quick, the IT with the new equipment, is this for new equipment for the central, or is this for like our laptops? What is this?
So they're going to be deploying new equipment, and that includes laptops, desktops for everyone, but they're starting from the top to the
Okay.
bottom.
Okay.
So yes, new laptops are included.
Okay.
We're actually getting 2 monitors, which is very neat and very helpful. It's
Good.
to do our job a little bit better, yes.
Excellent.
With regards, again, to the warehouse, in the end, when it's finally complete, we will have control of the 1819 building. Do we have any architectural drawings or anything of that to see what the final layout's going to look like?
I can get those from Dean Fatikas.
Okay, because I think we ought to take a look at it and make sure we've got everything considered that we need in order to run a efficient
So
operation.
is that correct, that we're going to have Mrs. Spera, the,
I'm not aware. I'm not been told that. I know when I was at the warehouse, Charles, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a individual there from the city, and I asked him, I thought we were having the whole building, and he said, who said that? And then Charles was supposed to get that.
And he
get
was
back to him.
incorrect. We are, that's why I just mentioned about the lease. That will show us what we have in this one building. So we will have control of one building.
how many floors is that building?
6, I think, well, we have, it's about 6 floors.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'd just be interested in seeing any
Okay,
drawings
I'll
that we
get
might
those
have.
to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. If there are any right now, I don't even know if they've laid it out. Yeah,
Okay.
so,
Well, before they construct, I think they do a rendering, wouldn't it? They'd have to do renderings. So if we just do a draft. just a
Yeah.
draft rendering.
yeah, and at one point, I'm sure each of us would like to go and see it once it's
No,
done.
I've got my own hard hat and steel-toed shoes if that helps.
Okay.
So me working with the purchasing department, we purchased end of year supplies to, hold us up for the next couple months. And when I call the warehouse, to see if the staff can go out there, and inventory what we've received, they mentioned that they have not moved the supplies from the locked gate in the first floor because the rooms on the 4th floor are very small. So whoever worked on those plans, those rooms, I know I never worked with them, and I'm not sure if, Charles, you were part of the discussion, but those rooms, according to what the warehouse staff is telling me, they are very small. I'm not sure if anybody else has seen those rooms, but I know when I took that tour, I said, these rooms are so small. Again, I was not part of the conversation.
Well, the supplies are being moved to 5 and 6 off of 4. The supply room is going to be a temperature control room for paper and things like that.
And what floor is that? The
That's
supply-
that's on the 5th floor.
Okay,
So the rooms I'm referring to are the individual rooms, like the legal room, the purchasing room, the PVL room, well, pre-election and voting and logistics room, community services rooms. Those rooms are very small, and I'm not sure if, Charles, if you remember seeing those. But
Those are the rooms on, you're talking about that's on 6 at the new rooms?
either 5 or 6. No, 6 is all the election equipment, ESCs. I believe they're under 5.
I'll retake a look at those rooms, but yeah, we do have rooms for those different departments.
so they're going to have offices there? Is that what that is, or?
No, it's more like storage space for things for their departments
Okay,
outside of the retention, the big retention area,
oh,
because there's a gated area that retention will be held.
okay.
Mrs. Sparrow, where did you do the mock election? Which building was that?
We did it at 1869.
Okay.
That would be my preferred building to stay, but if they're moving us, I guess they're moving us.
Okay.
Anything? Okay.
I was just thinking, if we do this right, General Counsel, we could move all our electoral board hearings out there. Maybe not.
I've always wanted to live at a warehouse.
Okay. Mrs. Spera, does that conclude your report? Okay, thank you. Next, we'll go to Max Bever, our Public Information Director.
Good morning, Commissioners. Just a few updates on my end. We continue to build our agenda for the Chicago Voter Forum on Saturday, April 5th. This week, I will begin confirming our community organizational partners for our panels. I do hope to release our poster and flyer by the end of this week once we set up our online registration, but we are looking to hit the ground running to start building that and getting our invites out and getting people registered. We're working with our website vendor on our 2025 contract goals, including improving our vote-by-mail applications. And this week, our Districts and Boundaries team is meeting with our vendor to make a plan on adding interactive maps to the website, including voter turnout and candidate results. So I will continue to give updates as we work on that through this winter, spring, and summer. We are looking to schedule a meeting with our registration and IT teams to discuss our plans for our major mailings this year, including the 2025 Canvas and the new signature registration form that the Executive Director has previously discussed. We are looking to determine our timeline and our registration procedures so we can create the necessary RFPs, make sure we're hitting all of our deadlines, and making sure that we get that out for vendors to bid upon. And I am looking forward to finalizing a request for information with our purchasing department, and we'll share that with the commissioners in the near future for our mobile app. Like we did for our website, our plan is to release a request for information first, to hear from qualified vendors, to meet them, to have them reach out to us and respond to that RFI. But also that's helpful for us to accurately build our request for proposals to be released a little bit later this winter. So it will be a request for information first that will help us build that request for proposals, then ultimately release that to find a vendor for our mobile app to hit our deadline to have that live before the March 17th, 2026 primary. Ideally by the end of the year, so we can have that ready once vote-by-mail applications open as well.
How do you publish that, the RFI?
We publish that on the website that is sent out to our existing list of vendors by our purchasing department. We also put in some social media and LinkedIn, a little bit of advertising when it comes to that. The regular newspaper publishings that go out as part of our request for proposals. We built upon our digital vendor list quite a bit with our website proposal. This put a little bit of elbow grease in to make sure that we are getting this in front of new potential vendors as well. That is why we wanted to do this two-step process and get meet and hear from additional qualified vendors before we have the official RFP go out so that they can get communications and updates throughout this process.
Okay. There is I'm not sure how this works, but I know the state, I think they use a vendor that publishes, on behalf of various agencies, all types of positions and all types of work that are out there. And I'm just thinking, I have the name of it, but it might be a good idea to look into it because that will provide you with an even bigger audience. But I really, aside from the fact I do subscribe to it, I registered for it, so I do get certain information. But it seems like it's pretty good, and there's a number of, it's kind of like a nationwide portal for all kinds of work and open positions. So I'll look for it and share that with you. I don't know if, like I said, how to, subscribe or what the cost is, but it might be worth just looking into it.
Certainly, I'd like to follow up and have our purchasing department use that as a resource. I know that they use the city and the county databases and resources when it comes to vendor outreach. If we have a statewide or additional ones that we can, I think it'd be a great idea. I think
Yeah.
that this is a very specific project, and we want, the highest qualified vendor to
Yeah.
create
And
an app here.
I'm also just thinking of open positions that they will, you do get notice from them. There is a, X position available because you're listing your interests.
Mhm.
So I'll share that.
Thank you, Chairwoman.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it from my end.
Yeah, one thing, first of all, I think that's a great idea, especially for IP, which is an area that's constantly growing and changing. On the voter forum on April 5th at Harold Washington, I'm just, I'm sure we've been working with them. They're giving us large enough facilities there in order to conduct this. I know they've got various rooms and such there, but we've been in discussions with them as the space requirements.
That's right. Director, I believe we have a room that's up to 200 people.
Yes, we do.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
I have a question, probably more appropriate to outreach, but since you're presenting it, I'll ask you, on the topics for presentation on that day from us, do you know what that'll include?
For the voter forum?
Yes.
At this point, I did not have plans for the commissioners to have specific presentations, but I am happy.
No, not the commissioner.
Oh, I'm sorry.
As far as outreach, what they do, I guess, in their regular program.
Mhm. Right now, the agenda was looking to focus on voting trends rather than spend too much time going over what we've done in previous elections and some of our teams. The goal for our panel discussions is to have our community partners at the table. A board staffer would be a moderator and bring up topics in conversation, which would also include voter participation and how we can improve voter turnout. And that includes our community outreach and what we do with our partners and how we can expand that. I think a lot of those topics will also be in our survey questions, both our online survey and our live survey that we plan to hold at this event.
Okay, well, and maybe whoever shares this with Audra about outreach, because I would think that overall in the umbrella would be like learn about voter registration, how they could register as well as participate as registering others, the election process overall. Some people just don't get it and why it happened, and then how to get involved. So I would think those are major topics that have to be covered anyway, whether there's a panel discussion or survey on it.
Certainly. Thank you, Commissioner. I'd love to talk and get more of your feedback, too, so that we can incorporate it into our plan and agenda.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And now we'll proceed with old business, infrastructure projects and changes in election administration, including electronic poll books and voting equipment. Anything to update us there?
No.
No? Okay. Legislation, Mr. Lasker?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. As Mr. Holliday did report, we've met with the board's lobbyist, Derek Blada, and also AECOI's lobbyist, Mike Grady, and some of the membership from AECOI, and had a very detailed conversation about a legislative agenda. Sounds like we and the commissions are basically on the same page for everything. And then we're having some follow-up meetings with the membership of AECOI and the lobbyists to work on prioritizing some of the things that are on the list. They talked about that both Derek Blada and Mike Grady, the two lobbyists there, were in agreement on what they've been hearing from their contacts in Springfield, that things are going to continue to move the way they have been moving under Governor Pritzker's administration, with most election matters being put into an omnibus bill that will be approved towards the end of the session. The spring session runs until May 31st. So they're so they're off and running basically with starting to make their contacts on the specific issues we've raised. They'll help us keep an eye on bills that are introduced that we might want to take a position for or against that aren't on our agenda list. I would point out we got an update from Mr. Blada on some of the pending bills. Again, they've been filed, but he doesn't expect election-related stuff to move till later in the spring. But there are a couple pending bills involving prisoners' voting rights. The proposition is to allow people who are in incarceration to have the right to vote. Currently, they lose the right to vote while they're incarcerated, and that right is restored upon release. There's also some suggested changes, somewhat minor, to voter registration cancellations, basically giving a little bit more authority to the election authority to cancel voters when the county clerk or board of election commissioners is of the opinion that the registration is no longer valid. Also, I just want to point out there, this proposal includes that election authorities would do their voter canvass every year between in the odd years, not every year, every odd year following those consolidated elections. The second one is in April and before the nomination paper circulation period for the preceding general primary. So that would basically mean that election authorities would be required between April and August of odd-numbered years to do their voter canvass. Not a problem for us. We're already on that schedule, and as you know, we already do it every year instead of every 2 years. So, and the last thing I'll point out is of interest is just because we had a little bit of snow today. It's already done. It's not severe, but there is a proposal to amend the Open Meetings Act, where if the National Weather Service has determined that a severe weather alert is within any of the jurisdiction of the public body, then your meetings can be held remotely rather than in person. So just, I guess we'll have to keep a closer eye on our weather reports.
Okay.
So unless there are any questions, that's my report on legislation. We'll be keeping you posted. Mr. Blade is providing us routine updates as things move forward. And he's also welcome, by the way, he welcomes your phone calls with any ideas or conversations you want to have.
Okay, thank you.
One quick, I noticed in the list, there's also something with regards to the Body Camera Act. As far as you know, no member of our staff wear body cameras.
Not to my knowledge, and
Okay.
it's very strange because it talks about the State Board of Elections shall come up with provisions, this is the summary from the legislature, shall come up with provisions regarding all public officers wearing body cameras. I don't know why.
Well, I can understand the state board having to wear them.
It does, yeah. I don't know if that's limited only to election judges, maybe that's what, but that was an interesting one. I didn't,
I thought maybe I was supposed to wear one. I didn't realize it, but thank you, Counselor.
well,
Well,
if it
mean,
becomes a
I mean,
requirement, I'll let you know.
Yeah, well, can you, somebody try to get clarification on that?
Yeah, I
I
also.
mean, that, just from a cost basis, I'm trying to figure out.
Well,
what.
right, 9,000 body cameras we're going to buy,
Yeah.
I mean, for our election
Or
judges.
even
I-
just for our investigators. I mean,
Yeah.
that would still be several hundred, you know,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
would be for one day work.
I failed to mention, I am working with the legal counsel in County Clerk Gordon's office to coordinate through them with the County Clerks Association, and also, of course, with our contacts in the State Board of Elections. This is one that I was planning to talk to our contacts in the State Board
Yeah, I
of
think that
Elections.
needs some further discussion.
Because I think that, you know, one of the nice things about our meetings, our routine meetings with AECOI membership is that we get to have a flavor for what the challenges are for smaller jurisdictions. And we all operate under the same rules and do the same things, but the challenges are different and their budgets are much different than ours. So for us, we talk about 9,000 body cameras might be out of the budget. And for them, it would be like 10
Yeah.
cameras would be out of the budget. Their budget is smaller and 10 cameras could be overly burdensome on them. So
Sure.
it's a statewide concern, and I was planning to, if this one moves forward, discuss that for sure with state.
Okay,
I
you.
have a question. As we are collaborating with our other authorities, are we covered, or are we sure there are no issues and concerns about the connections, ethical or conflict-wise?
My understanding is that public bodies are free to discuss with each other what they think would be good legislation.
I think we've
And-
discussed jointly legislation with them for decades.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
their offices also have had no concern. Even like the State Board of Elections has a legislative liaison whose full-time job it is to reach out to the election authorities on legislative matters like this. They've held seminars and so forth to discuss pending legislation with election authorities. So
So there's no issue.
not that has ever been risen by the State Board or the County Clerks Association or any of our lobbyists.
Okay.
Communication with, you know, like the lobbyist rules, involves communications with the members of the General Assembly, but not amongst third parties to that, the non-legislators.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Now, we'll proceed with new business, and we have before us an proposed extension to the professional services agreement with Blada and Associates for legislative consulting and lobbying services. Mr. Lasker?
Thank you. As you know, Mr. Blada has been serving as the board's legislative consultant and lobbyist since September of 2023. We're all pretty pleased with his abilities and his connections in Springfield, and no one's requested of me to consider changing that to somebody else. So the proposal is to extend his contract for another year with all the same terms and conditions. That includes a rate of monthly payment of $3,500.
Are there any questions? No, and, well, we're very pleased with the assistance that Mr. Blada has provided
Yes.
the board. I think it's made a big difference, and you can convey that to him.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve an extension to the professional services agreement with Blada and Associates LLC for legislative consulting and lobbying services with an extended term beginning January 14th, 2025 and continuing through December 31st, 2025?
So moved by Commissioner Cressy.
Seconded by Commissioner Brown.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. We have also a resolution for the disposal of FOIA materials that have surpassed their statutory retention periods. Again, Mr. Lasker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as a part of our Freedom of Information Act administrative procedures, paperwork and documents are actually created as a part of that process. We receive requests. There are correspondences between the board's FOIA officer and the requesters, and then, of course, there are the responses and so forth, and other documents created as a part of that. Joan Agnew, our FOIA officer, has requested that, she's got boxes of documents that are beyond their retention period. There's no pending or anticipated litigation. These are for materials that were all created on or before the end of 2022, December 31st, 2022. And so she is requesting the approval of that resolution.
Any questions? If not, is there a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the disposal of FOIA records and materials created on or before December 31st, 2022 in accordance with the Illinois Local Records Act?
So moved by Commissioner Brown.
Seconded by Commissioner Cressy.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank
Next is a legal report. Mr. Lasker?
Thank you very much. First of all, I do have those two documents for your signature, and I will then proceed with my legal report. As you know, we've been having ongoing weekly meetings with the Department of Justice for conclusion of the Americans with Disabilities Act, in the precinct polling places settlement. The DOJ is still working on its own internal final approvals of some of the terms. They've suggested some. We've responded with responses, and we're still trying to nail those matters down. Also, we're soon going to be, this spring, presenting to you commissioners new contracts for handwriting experts. Those contracts are expiring at the end of, or in the month of March. I've been talking with Charles and Clint Hurd from the PVAL, the Pre-Election Voting Logistics, and we're going to be expanding these conversations with registration and community services, because in addition to the standard like electoral board handwriting signature reviews that they do, we are interested in upgrading and improving the board's training practices, training programs for everybody within the board who does signature comparisons. That includes all the election judges out in the precincts, our early voting officials, the central count officials and judges who do vote by mail comparisons. We've never had, what we're talking about, for one thing, is having even a video training course that could be on the website, which would be very helpful, particularly for the precinct judges who don't come to our office on a routine basis. For our own internal staff, we can have in-person trainings, but we're also even talking about expanding into like having videos on the website, so that not only our election judges, but everybody can see how the kind of training we've got. So that's something we want to incorporate and add into those contracts. This is coming down the pipeline in March. Still ongoing weekly meetings with NetWoven to get the enhancements and debugging of the procurement and contract management software worked out. In the meantime, the software is being used, but as you know, we're trying to get some of the bells and whistles polished up on that. As I mentioned, we are continuing to have the ongoing meetings with lobbyists and legislative matters. And this is just an FYI, as a matter of curiosity, I suppose. Legal counsel from County Clerk Gordon's office has informed me that, they've got elections going on in February and April of this year. And there are two precincts, I think they're both in Tinley Park. It might be two different suburbs, but there are two precincts that have advisory referenda questions on the ballot, just advisory, but it would be to create a Chicago Lakefront National Park, to take all of Chicago's lakefront or park space and convert it into a federal national park, which I don't know how the city of Chicago would feel about just giving away its parks to the federal government, but those are on the ballot in two precincts in the zone.
Good to know.
Yeah. So for now, that's my legal report. Thank
They
you.
have a lot of parks in Tinley Park, too. That.
They, by the way, citizen initiated, not initiated by the corporate authorities.
Okay.
Council, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I recall just prior to the election, there was I believe, a lawsuit with regards to the language on the return envelopes for vote by mail. Is there any progress on that, or is that?
Well, as you may recall, on election morning, the circuit court denied their request for injunctive relief. Later that evening, the appellate court affirmed that. And that was on November 5th, Election Day. As of that moment, the plaintiffs had taken no action. So our outside counsel has filed a motion to dismiss. They had a hearing on presentment of the motion, not an actual hearing on the motion. And at that hearing, the plaintiffs' counsel did show up and state that they were going to file a motion to request leave to amend their complaint. So our motion to dismiss remains pending. They were granted leave to file a motion requesting leave to amend the complaint. That's the current status. There's a
Okay.
hearing set there's a briefing schedule, and the hearing is in about 42 days or thereabouts.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
You said NetWoven is available to access. If someone could email me, how I get access to it, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think that comes from the IT department.
That will come from the IT department.
Okay.
Matt Lynn, will talk to Matt, and he can get with you about accessing that.
You can just email it to me. I'll play around.
Okay. It's
All
time.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have a couple of financial reports. The first is a balance sheet and voucher listing for the City of Chicago, a 2024 appropriation, number 24-07, dated January 14, 2025, in the amount of $1,754,410.08. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved by Commissioner Cressy.
Second by Commissioner Brown.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Motion passes. We also have a balance sheet and voucher listing for the County of Cook, 2024 appropriation number 2407, dated January 14, 2025, in the amount of $7,551,841.63. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved, Commissioner Brown.
Seconded, Commissioner Cressy.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. At this point, do we have any requests for public comment?
I believe we have not received any.
We have not received any. Okay. If that's the case, then we will be entering into executive session, and then we expect no official action once we're out of executive session, and we will adjourn after that. So at this point, I will make a motion to go into executive session under Section 2C1 of the Open Meetings Act. Is there a second?
Uh,
Go ahead.
Oh, seconded by Commissioner Cressy.
Okay, properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Motion passes, and we are now in executive session. Thank you. We're now back in open session. The board took no official action, thank you, in executive session. And at this time, unless anyone can think of any further business before the board, I will entertain a motion to adjourn until our next regularly scheduled board meeting.
So moved by Commissioner Cressy.
Seconded by Commissioner Brown.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Motion passes and we're adjourned. Thank you.